She brought them to me. She put those shoes and hose on me. She put those civilian coats. I took my holy habit off in the hospital, and I wore hospital gowns because I don't have any money, and I don't have any clothes, and nowhere to get them. And so I wore the hospital clothes. All right, now she brought them. They dressed me up. I've been there maybe 6-7 months, and so the nurses is going to laugh. And she brought them to me. She put those shoes and hose on me. She put those civilian coats. I took my holy habit off in the hospital, and I wore hospital gowns because I don't have any money, and I don't have any clothes, and nowhere to get them. And so I wore the hospital clothes. All right, and now she brought them. They dressed me up. I've been there maybe 6-7 months, and so the nurses is going to help me to walk. But you see, I walked so long in the convent where the barefoot nuns, we have no shoes, no hose in the foreign country, and I walk on my toes, and we walk with our eyes downcast. They're only about half open. And you do that for a number of years, it becomes a part of you. You can put your heel down, but you don't. And I could open my eyes, but I didn't. I want you to know, after God saved me and got me back in the United States, got saved after I got back in the United States, I want you to know that God performed a miracle on me. I could no more stand up here and look back in a congregation like I'm doing tonight. I couldn't do that. It was an impossibility. When God delivered me is when I could open my eyes and look back into a congregation. That's why I love the Lord. I tell you, God has performed miracles on me, and so on and so forth. All right, now, one of the nurses, she's going to walk behind me. And you know, this is when I was able to get up and walk a little bit, not very far. And they put those shoes on me, and I haven't had shoes on for over 20 years. You can imagine what those shoes felt like to me. All right, but I start right out on my toes on those shoes. And the nurse said, now I'm going to walk behind you. And every time you go to walk on your toes, I'm going to kick you on the heel of the shoe. That would make me put my heel down. But folks, they never did teach me. I was walking on my toes after I got back in the United States. And oh yes, that habit had such a hold on me. And was so hard to break, it was a part of me, and on and on. So I had to learn how to walk, and more than that, I had to learn how to wear my clothes. I wore a nun's habit for the most of my life, and I forgot how to wear my clothes. I just didn't know how to wear my clothes. And then I think one of the hardest things that I had to learn how to act. I forgot how to act. I said I was a heathen. Oh, listen. The tears, the tears, the tears. I used to in the convent many times. Now, I didn't look up in God's face because I come to the place in the convent where God became a myth to me. Prayer became a myth. I didn't believe there was a God. Oh, no, and I lost faith in humanity. I lost confidence in humanity. Oh, it was a terrible condition to let yourself get in. That's the condition I was in when God delivered me out of the convent. And so all of these things I had to learn. But to learn how to act was one of the hardest things. I saw people laugh at me many times, make a little fun, and I would cry so hard. It hurt me. Had they been where I was, they would have acted maybe even worse than I did. Don't make fun of people. You don't know why people do some of the things they do. Maybe God may permit something to fall on you, and people will laugh at you every time you walk down the street. Serious business to make fun of people that are less fortunate than you. Don't do it. All right, now, you realize how heartsick and homesick and lonely and 1,000 other things that was wrong with me. I was bound by fear, such fear as you folk will never know. Fear of what? Well, fear of everything. I don't know of a Roman Catholic in the world that is not bound to fear. Not one. You won't admit it until you come to God, and then you'll admit it to God. But you'll never admit it until you come to God. And all of the shackles are removed, and all of the barriers are removed. And when you really run to the feet of Jesus and God delivers you, then you will admit how much fear you really had. We are bound by fear, and so was I. And you're prey to thousands and thousands of terrors, and on and on and on and on. It's a terrible thing. All right. Living in the hospital again, I say they were very, very good to me. But those were dark days, folks. I mean, they were dark days. Days when I wondered, why was I ever born? Was I born to live and die like that? Is that the reason I was born? I used to ask that question in my own heart, not to anybody, but in my own heart. All right, I've said enough right now. There isn't one of you sitting in this building, you aren't wondering, why did you ever go in a convent if this is what cloistered convents are? I didn't know what cloistered convents were. No, no, no. I'm going to tell you just what little bit I did know. I told you I went to a parochial school. It was a mile and a half from my father's home and the church right across the road from Dad's home. But you know, the little sisters there were my teachers too. But when I was about 9 or 10 years of age, something like that, I'll never forget one of the sisters especially. I thought she was the holiest of holy. And in my childish heart, I wanted to be just like her. And in my heart, I'd made up my mind someday I'm going to wear a holy habit, just like that little sister who was my teacher. And on it went. All right, then one day, when I was around 12 years of age, maybe 12, a little past 12 years of age, I can remember this time, two of the little sisters walked home from school with me. And they come to my father's home, and when we come up on the front porch, my daddy answered the door, and Dad invited the sisters in, and they sat down, and I come on in. But in our home at this particular time, we used to call our living room parlors, but I'll say living room so you'll know what I'm talking about. Our father confessor, our priest, was sitting in that living room. He lived right across the road from us. He was in our home so much at the time. Every night at 8:30 sharp, he was over to our house, and he and my father had a nightcap together. Every night. I grew up with that, knowing all those things. But he was in our home, and he was there this day. And you know, then they all started visiting like well people do. And they sat there visiting. But you know, I happened to have grown up in a family where my father and mother were disciplinarians. Most young people don't even know what I'm talking about because we just don't have it anymore. All right, but my mother and dad were disciplinarians. In other words, children were seen but most certainly never heard. And I grew up in a family like that. And the children there didn't talk until you were spoken to. But you know what? As they continued visiting, I was sitting about there and Dad was sitting over there. My little sister's here and Mom was here and the priest was right about there. In my heart, I made up my mind, this is the time to tell Mom and Dad I want to go in a convent. I thought it would be the best time. But how in the world am I going to tell them? You don't speak out in our home. My father was taking you right out to the shed with a razor strap, and you knew that. I know that. That's the way I was raised. And you don't mince words at all. All right, so I sat there for quite a while. And finally I got up and walked over to where Dad was, and I touched him on the shoulder. And I leaned down and whispered in his ear, and I said, Dad, I have to say something. And my father said, you go back over there and sit down. As soon as the company's gone, we'll take care of it. I know what that means, the razor strap. No, that thing did hurt. You didn't forget it right away, I'll tell you that. But you know, I didn't leave. I started to cry. And Dad knows I hadn't been quite that disobedient. And so he pulled me down by his ear. And I said, Dad, I have to say something. Please let me say something. And then he said to the priest, Charlotte wants to tell us something. And then this is what I said. Mom and Dad, I want to go in the convent. I want to be a sister of the open order, a nursing sister. That's what I wanted to be. Oh, as soon as I said that, Mom started to cry, and so did Dad. They really didn't want me to go in right then. All right, then they began to say to the priest, well, what will her life be like in the convent? How will she get her schooling? And the priest began to talk to Dad, and he said she can have as much schooling as she wants. She can choose any vocation she wants. And the priest went on to tell my father about my life in the convent. And he said when she's before she leaves to come to the convent, when the time comes for her to come, he said, now you buy her a trunk, and you let her help pack the trunk. And he told my folks what they could put in the trunk. And then he said, after she comes to the convent, when she's 16 and a half years of age, there will be a wedding ceremony, and she will become the spouse of God, or the wife of God, and so on and so on and so on. And he told my father all of this. And you know what satisfied my father and mother? They were perfectly satisfied with all of those answers. All right, then the sisters went back to their place, and the priest went home. Listen, folks, it was just the day before I was to be taken to the convent. We had none close by. And my father had already investigated one 950 miles away from home. I like 3 months being 13 years of age. And you know, they took me shopping for that trunk. It's a small trunk. I never owned a trunk in my life before. But they bought me that small trunk. No, I'd like to say to the young people sitting in this building, you know, the first thing I put in that trunk, a little woman living down the road from our home, a little woman made me a doll. It stood about this tall. It was a boy doll. And she would cut out the clothes, and she taught me how to make the clothes for that boy doll. Oh, I treasured that doll. I loved it very much. And my mother gave me a piece of white material, and I wrapped my doll all up in that white material and put it in the trunk. And then I took the pictures of all of my family. He told me I could take them. And then I had a little lamp and cups and saucers and all the little gifts that had been given to me as a child. And we put those all in the trunk. All right, now I knew there was something wrong, but see, I didn't know enough wasn't old enough. I wasn't even 13. And children back in my day at 13, I tell you folks, we hadn't been too far away from home. We didn't know much of anything. All right, but you know, I knew my father had sold quite a few cattle. But I didn't know why. My father had to have a $1,500 check from my diary. And so on the following day, the cattle were sold and Dad had the money. My father and mother took me 950 miles away, and there they put me in the open order convent. Dad, my trunk was taken in. The $1,500 check was handed over to the mother superior of that convent. That's from I never saw $1 of that money. Not one penny of that money. But it was given to her. All right, now, Dad and Mom stayed 3 days and 2 nights with me. And you know, they were going to leave after dinner on the third day. It didn't seem too bad while they were there. But I tell you, when they told me goodbye, and they had gone about 2 hours after they'd gone, and I really realized my Mom and Dad's gone, I didn't think I could take that. I have never slept away from my father and mother in my life. You see, I have old-fashioned parents. Wherever they took me, they brought Charlotte home. I couldn't go anywhere unless they took me, and they brought me home. I tell you that we children were disciplined. We were taught to work. We were taught to mind, and we know what it's all about. All right, I cried, and I cried some more, and I didn't eat any supper that night. And I didn't want any breakfast. For nearly a week I couldn't eat, and I couldn't sleep. And oh, the Mother Superior were so good to me, and the sisters were good to me, and on and on. All right, eventually I got over my homesickness. I vowed in my heart I'm going to be one of the best nuns there is, and on and on, and on and on. All right, and now, after the folks had gone, when I was about 14 and a half years of age, one day the Mother Superior called me in her office, and she said to me, when I come in the office, she said, now you know the time is soon approaching when you're going to take your white veil, when you're going to become the wife of God. Yes, 16 and a half I was going to take my white veil. And you know, she began to tell me about it. And she began to say a little bit about I'd be dressed in a beautiful wedding gown, and my mother and father can come to my wedding. Oh yes, I knew all of that. They told me all of that. All right, after she told me all of that, now, am I worthy to become the wife of God? Oh no, a million times no. And I didn't think I was worthy. And you know what? On Friday morning, every one of those little sisters, from little kids on up, we walk what we call the 14 stations of the cross, and that would be probably from there back to the wall and come down this aisle. We would always walk the 14 stations of the cross. Do you know what I did? From 14 and a half years of age until I'm 16 and a half years of age, every Friday morning I got down on my knees there. When we crawl with our hands upright like this. I crawled the 14 stations of the cross. Why did I do that? I thought it would make me holier. I thought it would make me a better wife to God. Oh, I was just as honest then, just as sincere then as I am this very moment. I believed everything that they taught me. I swallowed it because I don't know any better. The Bible was a hidden book. My father died at 93 years of age and never looked between the covers of a Bible. Oh no, it was a hidden book in my time. And so we were taught not to read the Bible because much of it is not true. And on and on and on, so I wasted time reading it. So we had never owned the Bible of any description whatsoever. Well, those are tragedies. Well, now the time is coming. I'm approaching my 16th and a half birthday. And you know, I better take you in the convent, though, and let you see how I was sleeping and so on and so forth before I slip into that. As we go into the convent, that's the convent boarding school. This is open order now. We go to bed at 9:30. At 9:15, after my white veil, of course, I had a portion of a little sister's habit on. My hair is not cut then. All right, now, we come to our cell door. We sleep in what they'll call the little bedroom cells. They're not cells, they're not bedrooms, but they call them. All right, we stand at the bedroom door. I take off all of my clothes. I put on a muslin nightgown. I'm going in there. We have a cot in there. Over here, I have a prayer board. I must kneel down and pray for a period of time before I can go to bed. At 7 minutes of the lights go out at 9:30. There are no lights in any of the rooms there. All right, at 9:30 sharp, the light on here, the corridor goes out. And that means you must be in bed. And more than that, at exactly 7 minutes to midnight, a bell